a journalist moves back to her hometown to work as a lifeguard at the local pool, where she begins a summer romance with a teenager that changes her life forever. On a New York City street corner, Lee, a journalist, passionately kisses Raj, her boss. When he says he's going home, she meekly begs that he stay, but the man walks away and heads down the subway stairs. Days later, the journalist investigates a potential story about a tiger cub that passed away from dehydration and malnutrition because its owner shackled it to a radiator inside an apartment. On the wall, the woman sees deep scratch marks on the wood and chicken wire covering the window. The disheartening scene deeply upsets Lee, who takes a moment to gather herself. In the office, she tears up as she describes the tiger cub's horrible living conditions and cause of death in the news story. However, she learns Raj decided to include her article in the offbeat section, so she confronts the boss for brushing it off as unserious news. Hours later, Lee overhears Raj on the phone excitedly talking about his recent engagement to his girlfriend, revealing that she and the boss have been having an affair. While on a date with a man who seems disinterested in her story about the tiger, the woman realizes she's grown disillusioned about her life in New York. So, she leaves the bar, heads back to her apartment to pack a duffel bag, and takes a train to her hometown in Connecticut. In the childhood home, the woman lets her cat, Moose, out of the carrier, and her mom, Irene, wonders why she didn't just ask a friend to care for the animal while she's away. In her old bedroom, Lee finds a coin belt, so the mother explains that she started a belly dancing class called Dance Mamas to earn some money. Seconds later, her father Hans arrives and happily hugs the daughter. During dinner, Lee explains that she is moving back home indefinitely because she's no longer happy in the city, and her life isn't like she pictured it'd be at 30. That night, the woman smiles as she eyes up in her childhood bed, finally, in a safe space. The next day, she meets up with her high school friend Todd, an art appraiser. The man asks what she'll do about her New York job and her relationship with her boss. Lee isn't sure what'll happen to her job but informs her friend that Raj is engaged. Later, the woman heads to the local public school to see Mel, who's now the vice principal. While waiting for her friend's workday to end, Lee somberly looks at the trophy she won for the National Academic Bowl in high school. After school, the journalist tells Mel that she saw Todd, and the woman expresses her disbelief that the art appraiser still hasn't come out of the closet despite his age. In the car, the vice principal declines a cigarette and reveals she and her husband are trying to get pregnant but that nothing's happened in 6 months. Lee assures her friend that they'll conceive soon, and Mel eventually smokes as long as the journalist promises not to tell her husband. That evening, the three friends and Mel's husband John have dinner at a restaurant. The journalist says she's decided to work as a lifeguard at a local pool to earn money while in town, surprising the group. Across the street, teenagers ride their skateboards and hang out in a parking lot, and the friends reminisce about how they used to do the same things in their youth. At home, Lee reads an email from her employer, the Associated Press, regarding her absence without leave. She learns that they'll have to fire her if she doesn't return to work by the end of the week. The next day, the woman starts her first day on the job with an orientation with the pool maintenance man, Mr. Poxark. While Lee cleans the pool, Jason, one of the teens the woman saw at the parking lot last night, sits on the lounge chair and introduces himself as Mr. Poxark's son. He says he lives in the apartment in the garage with his father. Later, Matt and Lumpy, Jason's friends, climb over the fence to enter the pool area and casually pass by the lifeguard. That afternoon, a group of unruly kids ignore the woman's orders to stop running. Then they head to the changing room and throw wads of wet paper at her when she reprimands them. One kid, Aaron, calls the lifeguard rude names and mocks her when she tells the group to leave the pool. Hours later, the upset woman expresses her disdain for Aaron, bemusing Jason and Matt with her cutting insults regarding the kid and the adults who didn't step in to help her. Meanwhile, Mel tells her husband that he doesn't have to hang out with her friends. She says she needs to spend time with Lee to figure out what the woman's going through. Outside the convenience store, Jason and his friends ask Lee and Todd to buy booze for them, but the art appraiser thinks of a better proposition. They'll procure the alcohol if the teens get them illegal substances. That evening when they arrive at the park, Mel admonishes her friends for failing to inform her of their plan to drink and do illegal activities with her students. However, Matt says she doesn't have to worry because they don't care what she does since they're all dropping out of school and moving to Vermont. Confused, Lee asks why they're choosing to forego a high school education, but Matt insists his priority is leaving town no matter what. When the others leave, Lumpy asks the vice principal if she went to their school as a teen and she affirms. She adds that Lee was valedictorian, while she chose to take her studies seriously when she got to college. Meanwhile, the lifeguard impresses upon Jason how fortunate he is with the life he has. She says he's still got his whole life ahead of him and hopes he doesn't make the wrong decisions. Later, Mel breaks down and says she needed to have fun tonight but her friends didn't seem to care. The vice principal admits her life isn't perfect and the difficulty of conceiving has taken a toll on her mentally. The trio decides to have a sleepover at Todd's place so Mel can cut loose for one night. When the man heads to the kitchen, the vice principal reveals she's jealous of the lifeguard because she gets to be lost, implying that the woman has the luxury of redirecting her life course. The next day, Lee finds Matt sleeping on a lounge chair, so she asks why he spent the night there. The teen explains that even though he lives nearby, he can't come home because his mother kicked him out. Meanwhile, Mel gets annoyed at her husband when he doesn't help with the household chores and spends hours talking on the phone with co-workers. That afternoon, the friends go on a joyride across a field in Todd's. When they drive back to the parking lot, they see two cops talking to Jason and his friends. So Lee acts as a mediator and explains that because there's no ordinance against skating in public, the police officers can't legally prevent the teens from having fun. The next day at the park, Mel watches the lifeguard walk alongside Jason, wondering if they might be getting too close for comfort. Concurrently, Lee tells the teen that he needs to find a specific path for his future. However, instead of answering her questions, Jason looks at her and says she seems sad, taking her aback. That night, Mel tells her husband that the former valedictorian never seemed like the type of person who'd get lost in life. So the man says real life is often disappointing to those with high expectations. Then in the bathroom, the vice principal tries to spice up their intimate moment, but John assures her that they don't need to do it because he loves her no matter what. The next day, Lee tells Jason about the tiger cub, and when the teen sees how upset she is, he hugs her, which she appreciates. Later, Erin apologizes to the lifeguard, hoping she'll rescind the ban. Then, she learns that Jason and his friends were the ones who pressured the kid to say sorry to her. That night, while Lee sits inside her car, the teen opens the door and sits in the passenger's seat. When she senses the increasing tension between them, she heads out in the pouring rain to join Todd by the convenience store. Because she left the vehicle abruptly, Jason returned her keys, causing the art appraiser to wonder what was happening between the two. Then, the friends and the teen sneak into the pool for a night swimming. Later, the lifeguard enters the changing room. Jason follows and they finally give in to their urges and make love. The following morning, Justine reprimands her daughter for coming home late last night and reminds her to help with the household chores once in a while. In the kitchen, the woman asks her husband why he isn't on the road yet and on his way to get the batter she'll need for the trade show. Hans apologizes and says he forgot because he saw their daughter had the morning off and thought it'd be a great time to make granola bars like they used to. Lee asks what trade show her mother's preparing for, so the annoyed woman says she's participating in a health and fitness trade show to get more exposure for dance mamas. The silly name elicits laughter from the lifeguard, prompting Justine to storm out. At the pool, Lee daydreams about herself and Jason, and she almost fails to save a drowning child. After work, she picks the teen up from the side of the road and they hang out by a pond. For the next few weeks, the pair keep their relationship a secret but continue seeing each other to make love. While cuddling in bed, Jason tells Lee that he and his friends leave in the next few days. However, when the woman finds out that he's only saved $400 working for his father this summer, she suggests he stay for a few more weeks until he reaches $1,000 to ensure he has enough cash in case he doesn't find a job in Vermont immediately. One evening, Mel notices the pair staring at each other and concernedly asks her friend if anything is going on between them since she'd have to report her. However, the lifeguard lies and says she and the teen are just friends. Moments later, the vice principal learns that the teens plan on leaving in a week, so she suggests they speak to the guidance counselor, but Matt is adamant about leaving as soon as possible. When Jason, Lee, and Mel step away to get drinks, Matt asks Todd why he never left town to pursue his dreams. So the art appraiser explains that all his family and friends are here, and he fears things changing too much if he leaves. The teen shares that when his older brother died, his mother could no longer stand the sight of him. To comfort Matt, the man touches his back, but the teen recoils and emphasizes that he isn't attracted to men. In his drunken state, Todd admits he finds the teen attractive, prompting Matt to exclaim that all he wanted was someone to talk to. Annoyed, the teen pulls Jason aside and says they must leave tomorrow. However, the friend says he needs a few more days to earn cash, disappointing Matt. The next day, Lee tours Jason around the addition to the house her parents are doing themselves. She thinks they're going through a midlife crisis, but she's unaware that her mother heard everything she said. That night, Justine expresses that she's had enough of the aimless daughter in the house while she's also in the middle of sorting out her life. So the woman tells Lee that she has to go because she won't allow the daughter to constantly rely on her parents whenever she feels lost. Even though her father promises to talk to her mother about the misunderstanding, the lifeguard packs her bag and takes Moose to Jason's house with her. The next day, she receives an email from her former employer informing her that they submitted the Tiger Cub story to a community journalism competition. Later, Jason tells the woman that he thinks Matt went to Vermont because his mother said he left yesterday and never came home. He theorizes that his friend went ahead without him because he's lining up possible jobs for them. While the couple makes out, they fail to notice Todd, who catches them in the act. Meanwhile, John confronts his wife about Lee's arrival, making her act like a teenager again. The woman disagrees that her behavior has anything to do with her friend, but he insists it does. Moments later, the husband asks if his wife loves him and wants to make a family with him. She says yes, but admits she needs more time to think about it. That afternoon, Todd reads aloud a text from Lee where she says that Moose went missing after she left the cat at Jason's house. He lets it slip that the lifeguard's staying at the teen's house, and Mel realizes they've been sleeping with each other, so she reprimands the man for enabling their friend's inappropriate behavior. Later, the vice principal confronts the lifeguard by the pool and says she's informing Jason's father about the relationship. Mel asks Lee why she had to come home and mess everything up, but the lifeguard corrects her and says everything was already messed up before she arrived. To keep the vice principal from outing their secret, Jason says he'll tell everyone that Mel hung out with the students and did illegal substances. The upset woman says Lee couldn't bear seeing her with her life together. Then, she apologizes to the teen for failing to stop Lee from taking advantage of him, but Jason clarifies that the relationship was consensual. Frantic, Mel says she's going to lose her job or have to resign because it's the right thing to do. Then, she blames the friend for dragging her down with her. Lee begs the woman not to tell anyone about the relationship, but the vice principal reminds her that she's an adult who needs to grow up. After work, the pair head out to search for moose in the forest. To their horror, they happen upon Matt's lifeless body hanging from a tree, implying that he took his own life. To calm the hysterical teen, Lee shields his eyes and leads him back to the house so he can be with his father. At the house, Jason asks who's going to tell Matt's mother, especially since it'll be the second time she's lost a son. So the lifeguard promises to tell the woman the unfortunate news. Just before she reaches the front door, Lee breaks down and cries. After collecting herself, the lifeguard knocks on the door and informs Matt's mother about what happened. Inside the house, Lee hugs the distraught woman. Later, she stays with the mother while she speaks to the police and until a relative arrives to look after her. When she returns to the pool, she finds her duffel bag waiting for her outside. Then, Lee wades into the water fully clothed, before walking home and staying in the unfinished part of her parents' house. She sees Moose waiting for her there, and the relieved woman holds the cat. The next day, Mel apologizes to Mr. Pachuliak for failing to protect his son. However, the man says Jason's been through more significant problems in his life, and he brushes off the alleged relationship as something minor they all need to move on from. After the maintenance man drives away, John arrives and asks what's going to happen to Lee. The woman says Mr. Pachuliak and his son refuse to name names, and the principal wouldn't accept her resignation. Moments later, Mel asks her husband if he thinks she'll be a good mother, so he assures her that he does, and the couple reconcile. Meanwhile, Lee shows her mother that she set her old bedroom up as the woman's office. So the thankful Justine hugs the daughter and tells her she loves her. During Matt's funeral, the lifeguard apologizes to Mel, and the friends patch things up. Later, Lee and Jason meet by the pool, where she informs him that she is going back to the city and shares an apartment with Todd. Then, she hands the teen a check for $1,000 which she won from the journalism competition, and says he can use it to start a new life in Vermont. The teen asks why she is helping him, so she says it's because he knows who he is and what he needs. Before the final goodbye, Lee promises Jason that he'll be fine. As the woman drives away from the house, she cries, recounting the memories from the eventful summer. Meanwhile, Lumpy helps Mel complete the school's memorial wall for Matt. Months later, Todd reads a postcard from Jason to Lee where the teen says he got a job at a convenience store in Vermont. He admits that he still thinks of the lifeguard and Matt all the time. Then, to end the note, Jason writes that if she ever gets tired of the city, she can always crash at his place. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.